The history of the military working for Palpatine is quite the tragic one, I must say. And that's mainly what I wanted to focus on, was basically the clone troopers, the stormtroopers, and then the First Order stormtroopers. How tragic it was, how they were recruited and made like cannon fodder to die in these wars that Palpatine orchestrated. And I'm not saying the Death Star shouldn't have been taken down. Clearly, blowing up a planet, especially a peaceful planet, is not a good thing at all. I mean, war is hell. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is just to point out the tragedies that were the backstories behind, you know, the clone troopers and the stormtroopers and the First Order stormtroopers. And a little bit extra too. There was also another set of group of people I wanted to mention. But I mean, it's very complex and complicated. The reasons why even some people that weren't recruited in the same way that worked for, you know, the Empire. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. So starting with the clone troopers, I think they might be the most tragic, but it's really hard to compare it. But I mean, the reason I say that is because they were probably loved more by fans than anybody. I mean, yes, the OG Stormtroopers definitely have a place in a lot of our hearts, but there's no doubt that the fans were really attached to the clone troopers. And for many good reasons. I mean, one is because they all had such unique personalities after a while. And then, of course, there was different versions of them, you know, then they started, you know, marking their helmets, and then, you know, and of course one of the biggest things is, you know, people watched all these clone troopers, you know, fight alongside the Jedi, which made it even more heartbreaking when this happened.
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
Yes, my lord.
We just couldn't believe that these troopers that had fought side by side with the Jedi, even becoming friends with them, were just immediately just turning on them like this. It was just heartbreaking.
Sir?
What?
Are we being too literal?
No, you fool. We're following orders. We were told to comb the desert, so we're combing it.
Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir. How about you? Not a thing, sir. What about you guys? We ain't found shit.
And then, of course, we have our beloved stormtroopers. And while they do have a special place in many of our hearts, there's no doubt that they have been the butt of many jokes. All kinds of memes have been done about them, about how they can't shoot straight or they can't aim. All kinds of shows have, you know, done memes about them. It's just been known that for, I don't know, ever since Star Wars came out, that stormtroopers basically just get their asses handed to them. And as easy as it was to laugh at the stormtroopers and to immediately be recognized as bad guys, and I understand that from the Rebels' point of view, especially if they didn't know a lot of this stuff. But you can't deny that they have a tragic backstory as well. I mean, look at Darth Vader and, you know, his tragic backstory as Anakin. These stormtroopers were recruited at birth and pretty much brainwashed and mind controlled to be loyal to the Empire. Now, the First Order stormtroopers were different in the fact that the First Order was more about quality over quantity. So the training, they were recruited at birth as well, but their training was much more intense, and I would think that maybe the technology was better. But the great thing about the First Order stormtroopers, and the one thing I did love about The Force Awakens, was I was hoping that we would get a little more insight on that life through Finn. The journey that Finn was making was incredible at first. So the last group I wanted to talk about actually was contractors. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but this actually kind of reminds me too of a scene out of one of my favorite movie, Clerks. You know, they talk a lot about Star Wars in that movie.
So when they blew it up, no problem, evil's punished.
And the second time around?
The second time around, it wasn't even done being built yet. It was still under construction. I'll bet they brought independent contractors in on that thing. Plumbers, aluminum siders, roofers.
Not just Imperials, is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. In order to get it built quickly and quietly, they'd hire anybody that can do the job. Think the average stormtrooper knows how to install a toilet main? All those innocent contractors brought in to do the job were killed. Casualties of a war they had nothing to do with. Alright, look. You're a roofer. Some juicy government contract comes your way. You got a wife and kids, the 2-story in suburbia. This is a government contract, which means all sorts of benefits. Along come these left-wing militants and blast everything within a 3-mile radius with their lasers. You didn't ask for that. You have no personal politics. You're just trying to scrape out a living.
Now, I don't fully agree with this, but we'll get back to this in just a second. So first of all, one reason I didn't agree with Randall is because I think a lot of contractors, and this is all saying if like they just didn't have droids or whatever doing all the work, but regardless, I think one reason the contractors probably did what they did in helping is because out of fear. You know, I mean, if the Empire says, hey, we need you to do this work for us, you know, generally people might just be scared. The other reason is because I don't think it was really clear on what happened, you know, in the movies, what we saw compared to the rest of the galaxy. There was a lot of support still for the Empire because of the misinformation that the Empire gave concerning the Jedi. And a lot of it had to do with age. People that had memories of the Clone Wars remember that Palpatine actually ended the war, you know, from what they saw. Palpatine actually announced to the galaxy, you know, about Alderaan and the destruction, but he had blamed it on, at first, and this became a much more complicated thing in Legends, but he had first blamed it that Alderaan actually had their own, like, a big, huge atomic type of weapon that was sort of like a laser, I guess. So I guess they were just kind of defending themselves, supposedly. You know, and even look at like Owen and Beru, you know, they just wanted to keep their heads down and just kind of do what they were doing, knowing that things could be worse. And of course, you know, wealth and corruption was played heavily into it. A lot of money was to be made. So yeah, just like with the troopers, I mean, it's just a very complex issue on what exactly happened, where the lines are drawn, and what is gray area and what is not. So this video was just, like I said, to highlight the tragedy behind all the different military under Palpatine's watch and how they really didn't even have a choice in pretty much joining the military, and how they were pretty much just cannon fodder to be sacrificed for this war that Palpatine orchestrated. And believe you me, I can probably make a video on all the things that the Jedi have done that are wrong also. So granted, like I said, I'm not trying to just make innocent out of the Stormtroopers and the Clone Troopers and all that, but I just wanted to at least highlight just how sad it was. And I appreciate all of you watching. Thank you so much.